Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. This is the fifth installment of the Maxwell Deposition. She perjured herself again in this portion of the deposition by claiming not to know about Virginia Giuffre's trip to Thailand, which I believe is when Giuffre finally escaped from Maxwell and Epstein, if I remember correctly. But Giuffre was told, allegedly, to maintain phone contact with Maxwell while she was on her trip. But Maxwell says that no, she had no idea even about the trip at all, and there would be no reason for Giuffre to keep in contact with her. But the attorney for Giuffre had a message from a man. It appears to be a written document. Of course, his name was redacted. But in the message, it instructs Giuffre to contact Maxwell, and Maxwell does confirm that the phone number in the message is in fact hers. Maxwell also is either not very bright or she pretends to not be very bright. So at one point during this deposition, she's asked if she has any knowledge about interstate or international transport of women for the purpose of prostitution. She claims she doesn't know what that word means. So the attorney, Macaulay, for Ms. Giuffre, explains that it's a sexual act that's paid for. And Maxwell's response is, quote, "Who's paying? What are you asking me?" Seriously? I mean, this is another thing. Although the court obviously took the time to redact the names of the accused pedophiles who took part in this child sex trafficking, they failed to redact all of the victims' names, because over the course of a specific line of questioning, a name is initially redacted. Then further down in the deposition, they're still talking about the same victim, and they're talking about who brought her on to work for Epstein, and then the name is revealed. It's not redacted. Plus, it's spelled a bit different than the traditional spelling of that name. So it's not going to be difficult for people to determine her identity. So further down the page, Maxwell admits to finding this girl at a university, as she put it. And Maxwell says, oh yeah, well, I went to the school. When pressed on it, she admits she went to the school twice. So that's a very strange place to look for, quote, professional adult employees, as Maxwell keeps pointing out that she hires, but she doesn't hire them. But she kind of does hire people because it's her job to hire. She hires a lot, but then she doesn't really hire. It's not her job. So, and if you haven't listened to the previous episodes about her deposition, that won't make any sense to you, but go back and listen. And Maxwell continued to contradict herself within minutes. It's insane, this woman. So at one point, she's asked in several different ways if any of the names and addresses of Epstein's contacts were kept on his computer. So this is that computer I mentioned in a previous episode, which somehow miraculously vanished prior to the search warrant that was executed at his home in Florida. So Maxwell first states, it's not my job. That was not my job to keep track of his contacts. But then when she's pressed on it and asked whether or not anyone else might take care of things like that, she says, quote, I couldn't possibly say. So she's indicating and intimating that she has no idea how his contacts are handled. But a few sentences later, Maxwell states, quote, if he gave me a telephone number, I would give it to an assistant to put in the computer. I could do that. Well, then you do know. You can possibly say. You just did. So then, after some contentious back and forth regarding this contact list of Epstein's, Giuffre's attorney just drops the hammer, and she asks Maxwell if she's aware that there's a man, of course his name is redacted as well, there's a man who handed a document over to the FBI, which is his contact list, which is Epstein's contact list, And this man says, or he told the FBI, that he got it from Maxwell's computer. So busted again, another instance of perjury. Later, Maxwell is presented with some sort of journal containing Epstein's contacts. And one section of this journal has a header that reads Florida Massage. And then below that header is a list of girls' names and numbers. So Attorney McCauley asked Maxwell if she's aware that Florida police found that some of the girls listed under that heading were underage. Now, Maxwell makes a very big deal throughout the entire deposition of how giving a massage, being a masseuse, is totally legal in Florida if you're 17. You don't have to be 18. So she clearly did some research and is trying to make these excuses. But she, of course, denies any knowledge that any of these girls on the list were underage. And if you recall in part 1, I reported that Maxwell claimed to have barely been around in 2004. She said that she only visited for Epstein's mother's funeral that year. But Gouffre's attorney, again, references another man. His name, again, is redacted. And this man says that he was hired in 2004 and that Maxwell was his direct supervisor. So kind of hard to not be around, but yet be someone's direct supervisor. So another potential case and instance of perjury. The attorney also catches Maxwell in a lie regarding conversations with Epstein surrounding some sort of grand theft case involving Gouffre. Over and over again, Maxwell denies having any type of communication with Epstein regarding this matter. Then the attorney, McCauley, presents her with this email from 2011 that it appears Maxwell and Epstein are kind of discussing an idea for an excuse to use for why Gouffre fled the US. So they kind of toss around this idea that they'll just say that she fled the US to avoid grand theft charges, rather than the real reason, which was that she was trying to escape Epstein and Maxwell. In fact, there were quite a few emails that were pretty damning that the attorney confronted Maxwell with. So, for example, there was a passage in an email in which Epstein posits the idea that Maxwell should, quote, pay a reward to Gouffre's friends, family, or acquaintances to get them to, quote, help prove her allegations are false. So maybe across the pond, that's called a reward. Here in the US, we call that a bribe. Obviously illegal. In another email, also from 2011, there was an email that was sent from some redacted individual, again, another redacted name, and it was sent to Maxwell and another group of people. Maxwell then forwards this email to Epstein. So the email reads, quote, we should think about the letter to the editor. School can be university. Age of consent in Florida is complex. See below. If you are 16 years old, a sexual relationship with someone between 18 and 24 is legal in Florida. Two persons between 16 and 24, Florida Statute 794.05. A person 24 years or of age or older who engages in sexual activity with a person 16 or 17 years of age commits a felony in the second degree. So as soon as you turn 16, you are able to have sexual relations, and you can have sexual relations with a minor under the age of 18 until your 24th birthday. Yeah. Raise your hand if you've never had to investigate the age of consent in your state. Kind of freaking creepy. So, of course, they asked her why she's investigating or talking about the age of consent in Florida. She makes the excuse that, it's just a friend trying to help her. And oh my God, so gross. Anyway, there are more emails that are striking, so I will pick up in the next segment with that. So take a listen to the 6th and final installment next in regard to Maxwell's deposition. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening and watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.